Hey, it's Em, and we finally found a book I didn't enjoy very much. I don't know if that's a win or not. After starting the year relatively well with 4 and 5 star reads, I have come across something that I should have loved. I don't want to say should have. I expected to love. I have come across something I expected to love and did not. Now, some of that is on me. I found this book at the library on the new books display and did not realize when I picked it up that it was the third in a series. Would I have loved it more if I had read the first 2 books? Maybe, but I kind of doubt it, because if those 2 were written like this one and had the same characters, which they seem to have had, well, I don't think it would have done me any good to read those. All right, so what am I talking about? I'm talking about The Lady on Esplanade by Karen White. This is the third in a Royal Street, it says a Royal Street novel, so it's the third in the Royal Street series of books. Now, this is about haunted houses in New Orleans. Absolutely right up my alley. If you've been watching this channel for any length of time, you know that my family hails from southern Louisiana, the New Orleans area, and I love haunted house books and I love historical homes and all of those things, and there's ostensibly a romantic element to this, although not really. This is more like, it's like it wants to be paranormal romance, but the romance is a backseat kind of thing, so it's more like paranormal murder mystery with romantic elements. I don't know what it considers itself, but the cover is just so like, I'm like, oh, I know houses like that. Okay, the setup. Nola, yes, Nola. She lives in New Orleans, and her name is Nola, but it isn't really, apparently, because it's kind of thrown in somewhere in here that her actual name is Emmeline. She just goes by Nola, and I assume that was explained in previous books, but already I'm kind of like looking askance, because who has a character in New Orleans named Nola? I don't know. Feels a little much. Nola is, I guess, in her 20s, because at one point she mentions being in her 20s, although she acts and sounds like a middle-aged woman. So when I started reading this, I assumed everybody was at least in their 30s or older. She is a recovering alcoholic. She is restoring a house in New Orleans that she plans to live in, but she's also working with a guy named Beau, who is a contractor, to buy, flip, and sell murder houses, like houses that murders have taken place in, which in New Orleans there are a fair few. So yeah, that's kind of the ground, like the foundation. Those are the fundamentals. Now, Nola and Beau, of course, have tension, ostensibly. This is all told from Nola's point of view, first person, and she's like, oh, well, Beau has psychic powers, and being around Nola makes his powers stronger, and they're attracted to each other, I guess. I'm told. Don't feel it, but okay. But also, like, Beau doesn't love having the ability to see ghosts. I guess it's not really psychic, but whatever. He can see ghosts and communicate with ghosts, and he can do so more with Nola around. Nola's stepmother and half-sister are also able to do these things, communicate with spirits. So, I don't know. Nola's just some kind of amplifier for this kind of thing. Nola lives with a roommate, Jolene, who is a fiery redhead, loves fashion and makeup and stuff, is a PR dynamo and event planner extraordinaire kind of person. She was kind of fun, but a lot. So also, like, not somebody I would necessarily want to read a whole book about, just because it's a bit much again. Everything in this is just a little too much, a little too on the nose, a little too everything. Anyway, the house that Nola and Beau are flipping is obviously haunted, and they're trying to figure out what's going on with this house, and also There's the Bo's dead mother. She disappeared during Katrina. They find her body. They're trying to figure out whether she drowned or was murdered or what. There's a lot of different threads here. Nola also has an ex-boyfriend from high school who turns up, Cooper, and he's, he and Bo are kind of circling like angry dogs or whatever. It's all very on the nose. I'm not actually feeling anything because I'm being told everything. Like, all of the way it's written is not compelling at all. And despite having all these different threads of stuff going on. And also, Jolene, by the way, has a huge crush on another friend of theirs, Jackson, but he just proposed to his girlfriend, Carly, and Carly wants Jolene to help plan the wedding and be the maid of honor and stuff like that. And obviously, that's not ideal for Jolene. And Bo is planning to pop the question to his girlfriend, Sam, because Bo and Sam do a podcast together. Besides, like, there's a lot. There's a lot. And yet, all this stuff going on, and it's so boring. So very little actually happens. And we get to the end, we find out how Bo's mother died, and, that his father's still alive and all this stuff. Sorry if that's a spoiler. It's kind of understood throughout the book that the dad is alive and just missing somewhere, but it's all very telegraphed. So it's not even a surprise. There's not even a twist. It's like, I skimmed the last 40% of this because I really did not need them to just keep having the same conversations over and over. It was so repetitive and so dull. And then, again, just no chemistry between any characters. They're all written like middle-aged people. Even the 12-year-old half-sister talks like, an adult. And I'm like, very clearly, this is a woman who hasn't been around younger people, maybe. Karen White, she appears to be older, and, she's got a husband and a dog, but it doesn't say anything about her having kids. But I just feel like the author maybe does not know what 20-somethings actually talk like or behave like. I don't know. It's just, I'm reading it and I'm just assuming everybody's like in their 30s and 40s here. And I'm like, oh, when Nola mentions that she's in her 20s, I was like, really? Wait, what? I mean, she does talk about having like come out of school recently, college recently or whatever. So I could have assumed that she was young-ish, but she just doesn't sound or behave youngish. And Nola's insistence on not needing help from anybody it goes beyond being independent woman and even just stubborn to just like annoying. It's one thing if it's, you're like, oh, I get it. She's wants to be self-reliant because, her mom abandoned her when she was young and then ended up dying, and she's had a hard life and blah, blah, blah. And she doesn't want to rely on other people because she feels like she can't, because that's never worked out for her in the past, even though it sounds like her stepmom and that family has been perfectly wonderful. Again, I didn't read the first 2 books. There's probably more to it, but I can understand that as a character trait. But when your character is at the point where it's happening so often and being repeated so often, like she's verbalizing, I don't need anyone's help, I don't need anyone's help. It's no longer, an understandable character trait. It's repetitive. It's obnoxious. It's annoying. No one in life is actually like this. Okay? Like, you get to the point where you're like, okay, this just doesn't even sound like a real person anymore. And yeah, I mean, that, I guess, is the bottom line. None of these people sound or act or behave in realistic ways, even for people who see spirits, interact with spirits, flip murder houses. Do you remember on Quibi, they had that murder house flip thing? Does anybody remember Quibi, first of all? Okay, anyway, sorry. That's what I kept thinking of when they kept talking about this murder house thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I do not know, but it was all, again, just all, everything ended up being very much telegraphed. So it wasn't even like the mystery was that interesting. And then they kept referring to things that had happened in the previous books. So I kind of understood what had happened because they kept talking about it over and over. But at the same time, I didn't care. And I didn't care about any of these characters. That was a big part of the problem too. There was just nothing about these characters that made me invest. And again, I don't think reading the first 2 books in the series would have changed that. So you get to those last few pages when the big crisis happens, which is very clearly what happened in the previous book, or maybe books, where like it's a lot of talking, a lot of going to dinner, going to the theater. They go to Beetlejuice at one point. I don't know. And you know, driving around, picking people up at the airport, whatever. And then finally in the last, 40, 50 pages, stuff happens. And then something sets up whatever the next book is going to be. But you know what? I don't care. I'm not going to read the previous 2 books. I'm not going to read any more of the other books. I just did not care for the writing. I didn't care for the characters. I didn't care for anything. It's like a premise that just totally was mishandled due to a lack of interesting characters or plot, honestly. So, all that said, sorry if you love these books. I guess the author is famous for something called the Trad Street series, which I don't know where Trad Street is. Maybe Charleston, because there's a lot about Charleston in this book, and I'm thinking maybe the author is very fond of Charleston or something. I don't know. But yeah, I gave it 2 stars on Goodreads. It's like a 1.5. I mean, is it readable? Yeah, but barely. And it's 401 pages of like very little of interest going on. And even the big climax scene, I was like, I don't care. I skimmed that too. You would think you get to the big climax, you go, okay, let's see how it plays out. No, I did not care. I didn't care. I actually went looking for spoilers online so I wouldn't have to finish the book. I just wanted to see if I was right about my assumptions. And I couldn't find any, so I had to skim the rest of the book just to see. And that was really all I was after at that point. Which I guess, I mean, I've had books where I don't care enough that I just don't even look for spoilers. So the fact that I cared enough to look for spoilers is what gives it the extra half star, I guess. But yeah, I did not enjoy this. I did not enjoy it. I'm bummed because the premise, again, I should have been totally my thing. And yeah, it was mishandled in every possible way. It was not good. So yeah, that is The Lady on Esplanade. The Lady on Esplanade is one of the ghosts. I just picked up John Scalzi's The Kaiju Preservation Society, which has been on my to-read list for a long time, and I finally requested it from the library. So I started that, and already, I'm 26 pages in, and already I'm like, oh wow, this is much better. Not that it would have taken much, but yeah, the book I'm reading now, I am enjoying much more, and it's a short one, so I should be able to get through it relatively quickly. But anyway, if you've read The Lady on Esplanade or the other Royal Street books, or you read like the Trad Street, if you know where Trad Street is, I know I could go look it up. Again, I don't care enough. But if you know where it is, let me know. And yeah, until next time, take care.